Did you know that the Turkish king had an entire different area allocated to all the women in his palace, hidden from plain sight? These women spent their entire lives in harems. But what was the significance of these enclaves in the Ottoman palace? What went on behind closed doors? Was there any hierarchy between the women at the harem? Let's find out all that and more ahead. The history of harems. Within the Ottoman palace, the harem was a special institution that had a tremendous impact on the social and political life of the empire. For the women of the royal family, including the Sultan's mother, wife, concubines, daughters, and other female relatives, it was a private residential enclave within the palace. Eunuchs, who were in charge of protecting the women and preserving the order in the harem, also lived in the harem. The women who lived there were referred to as women of the harem or women of the Sultan, and it was thought of as a different world within the palace. The Ottoman court female members were expected to spend the majority of their time in the harem, and they were typically not permitted to leave without permission. The wielded Sultan, the Sultan's mother, maintained a position of immense authority and sway within the harem. She was in charge of the harem's female inmates' education and welfare, and she frequently participated in the choice of the Sultan's wives and concubines. The eunuchs and other harem officials could be appointed or removed at the wielded Sultan's discretion. The majority of the harem's female members were highly educated and esteemed members of the Ottoman court. They were expected to be able to hold intellectual conversation about a number of issues and were taught a wide range of subjects, including literature, history, music, and the arts. Women also enjoyed greater freedom and autonomy inside the harem than they would have outside of it, and many of these women were able to exercise enormous power within the Ottoman court. In the 19th century, when the Ottoman Empire underwent a period of modernization and westernization, the harem system started to crumble. After the Ottoman Empire fell in 1923, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the creator of the Republic of Turkey, instituted several reforms, one of which was the elimination of the harem. But still, the harem is regarded today as a significant and distinctive element of Ottoman history and culture. Stay with me to know all about the inner secrets of the Ottoman harems behind closed doors. The harem's women were hidden from the outside world amid a labyrinth of lovely courtyards and mysterious doors, making them impossible to spot by nosy eyes. The rooms had exquisitely tiled floors that were as pleasing to the sight as they were as the female senses, making it an entirely other world to live in. Naturally, the women weren't allowed to leave the harem because they were regarded as the Sultan's property, and only he and his court were permitted to visit them. Even members of the court had to pass stringent inspections before being given permission into the harem, which where the eunuch held sway. The women of this harem were able to exert influence over the court and to negotiate marriages and alliances. It's not a surprise that they play a virtual part in the political and social life of the palace in addition to their daily responsibilities. But it wasn't all that great for them. It's true that while the ladies of the harem enjoy benefits and access to education, they were also subject to stringent laws and regulation, and the males in the palace exerted significant influence over their lives. The women who lived in the harem couldn't leave without permission and were subject to punishment if they disobeyed the regulation, making it virtually a prison for them. Also, the Sultan had to approve any marriages or childbirth for the women of the harem, and the men in the palace effectively ran their lives. Not an ideal way of life, huh? Eunuchs of the harem. The harem's women were typically kept apart from the outer world and were forbidden from interacting with any men other than the men in their close family. Eunuchs served as their watchman, and the female slaves were in charge of taking care of their everyday requirements. Why eunuch, you ask? Eunuchs came in a number of various types. It was because of the fact that they couldn't arouse women to engage in sexual activities. They were deemed safe enough to serve as the protectors of the harem. So they firstly guarded their authority as the harem's lockkeepers. They were able to get tea, gossip, by going among both men and women, which gave some of them significant position in the imperial courts. Eunuchs came in a number of various ways. White eunuchs were of the second or third kind, having part or all of their private parts intact, whilst black eunuchs likely to be of the first category. Sandali, white eunuchs served in the administrations and away from the women, whereas the black eunuchs served in harem because of their lack of hearts. Up to 600 eunuchs were employed by the palace at its height of the Ottoman Empire. The majority of eunuchs came as gifts from various provincial governors. Young eunuch pages who completed their training as eunuchs were then assigned to service. White eunuchs were assigned to various government official patronage or even the Sultan personal service. If they were black eunuchs, they were assigned to a harem figure such as a Kadin or a Sultan's daughter or sister. Additionally, they could work for chief black eunuchs, the Kisla Agha, master over the girls. All letters, petition, and official documents addressed to the Sultan were under the authority of the Kapi Agha, or the chief white eunuch, who was also given the right to directly address the Sultan. The Kisla Agha was the third highest rank official in the empire. He served as the private courier between the Grand Vizier and the Sultan and was always free to approach him. How were women selected? The Ottoman Sultan's harem was known for housing of history's most stunning and gorgeous women. They came from many geographical locations, like the majority of them were brought from the slave market in countries like Iran, Russia, Greece, Turkey, and Europe. Women for the royal harem were frequently selected throughout the Ottoman Empire, using a variety of strategies such as gift giving as tribute, purchases made on slave market, or recruitment from the empire's subject peoples. In order to appeal to the Ottoman sultans, the women chosen for the harem were frequently young and lovely. They were also frequently schooled in a variety of disciplines, including music, dance, and languages. Inside the harem, there were women of various classes. The first group is the odalisque, which loosely translates as chambermaids in Turkish. Even though physical beauty was still important, they were also sometimes referred to as the iqbals, and it took much more than that to advance to one of the top positions a courtesan could aim for. The Gedicts were the next group of ladies who, in a simple word, could be described as nothing more than eye candy, and were not meant for sexual relation. Instead, they served the Sultan in the evening by bringing him light snacks. The servant, the lowest rank, performing the same duties as the Gedicts, but weren't quite royally approved. Their future at the palace frequently rested on how well they get along, because they were viewed as one-night stands. The Sultan's favorites. The Sultan's mother was the undisputed ruler of the harem and the Lady Supreme. She exercised total impunity over all harem's activities and was never called to account. The harem was not an exception to her absolute authority. She was the center of attention because everyone's future hinged on her, and her favor was the most sought after object in the harem. She chose her son's concubines, and she had a great deal of influence over who he saw and when he saw them, which is quite the Freudian nightmare. Being in a good standing with the Sultan's mother was necessary to advance one's fate, because doing so may result in a host of advantages for all parties involved. This meant that the concubine who saw the Sultan the most could have the best chance of becoming pregnant and becoming superior to the other women. Not all the women in the harem were servants. The majority of the Sultan's wives enjoyed the freedom of residing near to his concubines. The wives were free in the sense that they had consented to the marriage of their own free will. This occasionally led to conflicts with other women in the evening, but each of them had to make their own way and accept their odd relationships. Contrary to popular belief in the West, not all harem women were expected to have relation with the Sultan. In actuality, they were all given a little education akin to that of a male page and frequently groomed to be wed off to members of the court, other nobles, or the Ottoman political elites. They could also choose to remain in the harem and attend to the demands of the valide Sultan. The valide Sultan and the Concubines held the position of authority in the harem, and the harem's orders was the responsibility of the valide Sultan. Being a female senior in the imperial household, the valide Sultan was expected to educate her son about the complexities of state politics and act as a mentor to him. She was frequently asked to get involved in the Sultan's decisions when the Mufti or the Vizier thought the Sultan could have made the wrong choice. The Sultan's favorite women were Concubines. Only 4 major Concubines were permitted by tradition, but there was no limit on concubines. Concubines received eunuchs, apartments, and slaves in addition to having a rank equivalent to that of a legal wife. For instance, Concubine Nurbanu had a staff of 150 ladies in waiting under Selim II, who was a personal favorite. The amount of belongings, attire, jewelries, and allowances granted to them was proportionate to how much the Sultan loves them. The end of Ottoman's harems. One of the key causes of the Ottoman Empire's eventually fall for the excessive meddlings of harem ladies. The expansion of the harem was tied to an increase in spending, which was caused in part by increasing number of women and in part by the extravagance of the different sultans. By reducing the prince governing and public responsibilities, the introduction of women into the Ottoman governing structure led to important changes to state policies towards the roles of the princes. The number of harem ladies expanded as a result of the imperial harem's unregulated expansion, diverting the Sultan's focus from the governing responsibilities. As a result, the authority of Sultan was diminished, which ultimately contributed to the fall of the entire empire, and along with it, signal the end of harems. So, what was your thoughts on the Ottoman's harems? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you with another one.